Hello YouTube, how are you? On this image you can see a simple and understandable, I hope so, overview of what is PostgreSQL DBA live in production. So you have the very most important part is the PostgreSQL database. Usually when you want to the most performance you will install your own PostgreSQL database on Linux, not on Windows, because this is highly not recommended to install your PostgreSQL on Windows, because the DBA will be limited on what we can do on Windows. Whatever the version of Windows is, 7, 11, 10, or well, the highly recommendation is to install your own PostgreSQL databases on Linux. It could be Red Hat or whatever you want. Your your on PostgreSQL database could be replicated. It could be fully replicated using streaming replication, or it could be only replicated for a few objects in your database. For example, for if you want to replicate it only a few tables, you can use logical replication. This is a feature, internal feature in PostgreSQL, or you can use another tool called Sloney. So the database is not fixed. The database is supposed to change in the time. So we have a couple of users, and our users are connected on the database every day. And it is the job of the DBA to reply to their needs. So when their user have some needs, the job of the DBA to translate these needs into a language that the database can understand. This is what we call SQL. SQL stands for Standard Library Language. And when the needs are translated into this language, they are pushed into on the database. Or for example, if the user want to add a new column to a table, this is the job of the DBA to do that. And when, for example, the database gets slower, for example, where a few users notice that the database gets slower, they will call the DBA, and it is the job of the DBA to fix this problem as soon as possible. But well, standard library language is just a language, and this is just what we call just a skill. But I have a question for you. That's my question. Did you pay attention to something on this image? No? Yes? No? As you can see, all the databases are hosted on Linux. So it means that the job of the DBA is not to be an expert on standard library language. When you are on a production, you have to pay attention that you need another skill. And the other skill is, I think you get it? Linux, yes. And Linux skills are there to help the DBA. What I mean by Linux skill, for example, if you are just a new DBA and you are promoted to be able to do that, you need to have some motivation to learn Linux. I know it takes a lot of time to learn Linux, but well, where can you start it? I will share with you a couple of recommendations. You know there is a lot of distribution on Linux, and easy one that I can recommend is to use Linux Mint. Linux Mint is a popular distribution in Linux world. You can install it on the virtual machine using a tool called VirtualBox. There are a lot of video on YouTube how to install, how to use VirtualBox and Linux. And after that, when you are ready, you can do. What you need is only the shell. For example, I will share with you a couple of examples clearly to give you some motivation. For example, let's see if you want to can you print all numbers from 1 to 100. There is a command on Linux to do that. For example, you can use sec. Sec stands for sequence. You just enter sec 1 and 100. And there we go. You have another way to do that. You can instead of using the command sec, you can use for example. And there we go. So as you can see, there is a couple of ways to do the same thing on Linux. If you want me to explain what I did here, it's pretty easy. Here I use the for. I said I use for is used to for a loop. So in my here I said I use a variable called I. I set up to the first value 1, and I said until 1 is high is lesser than 100, then increment it. Here what you see I++, it is used in the C++ language, and after that I use in my loop echo with that. That's it. For example, you can easily use a couple of editor like Vim or Nano. For example, I can say the Vim my text. Quickly I can enter hello. Now I can save the content of my files. I can clear my screen. If I want to print the content of the file that I have just read, I can use the command cat. If I want to print the opposite, I can use the command tac. As you can see, the line are reversed. Or if, for example, I just want to print the first line, you usually the Linux beginner will do something like this: cat it helped me to print only the first line. If I want to do it, I don't need to use cat. I can use it directly. Use the tail, because here it's using tail here with that is useless. You can do that directly using tail. And there we go. And if I want to print the last line, instead of using tail, I will use head. And there we go. And for example, if I want to write my first script, I will use Vim. And there I will use once again cat. Instead of, you can use a cat, for example, to print something different. Inside I can use a command like this one. To be able to execute it, I have to put some write on it. And after that I will be able to execute my own script. And there we go. There is a couple of variables used on Linux, for example. If I want to know who is the current user in the session, I will use that. As you can see, there is a couple of things. On Windows, you have an environment variable called path. We have the same on Linux. Sorry. There we go, we can see it. For example, if I want to replace here, you can see that I have this character here, this one. If I want to replace it on the fly, I will do something like this. For example, I can replace it by this. And there we go. That's it. So you see, Linux is pretty useful right now. When on this video, you don't. I may understand that you don't understand what is where this kind of understand how to use all of this could be useful. But believe me, when you are ready to go, it could be pretty useful when you are PostgreSQL DBA. Man, that's it. And there is a lot of things to learn on PostgreSQL. Thanks for watching this video. Have a nice day.